Hey guys, welcome to Code A. This is the afternoon session. We have a really exciting first matchup of players. I'm gonna let Calder introduce the first one.
Well, starting to the top left, we have our one of the Casper players. Today we have actually two in this match, and we have our Terran in red, and this is of course Flash. And yeah, there was a good shot of him.
This guy is quite popular.
You know, I just looked up the statistics for him, but let's introduce the player to the bottom right first. In the blue, we have the Protoss player, and he is called Mini. Able to advance over Naniwa in the first round. Took down the Swedish Protoss with a 2-0.
I have to say, STX Soul changes their jackets more than any other team.
The thing about Mini is that he actually said in the interview later on that he thought he was going to face a tough opponent, but that he was surprised that it was quite easy to beat Naniwa. Something that Naniwa himself was not too happy to hear. But well, in this game he's up against Flash, and Flash has the sickest record ever against Protoss. He has a 94% win ratio with 16 games played. He only lost one single map, lost it to Killer.
Yeah, that was a pretty nasty series that we saw between those two players. That's how he got here, in fact. Now Flash is actually going for gas first on Ohana here. This is a great map to do these siege tank pushes that we've seen as far back as 2010. You just contain your opponent at the bottom of the ramp, makes it very difficult to engage. Plus, there's a lot of surface area you can start to grab onto on this map where you can control the ramp. You can also control part of the main base, so Mini's going to want to be careful about where he puts his gateways. Doesn't want to put too many structures on the edges of his base.
Yeah, Mini has to be really careful here. The thing is that Ohana is just a great map for one base play. We've seen this in the past over and over again. When all these Terran players started to focus a little bit more on the one base pushes, of course, Hard comes to mind. Also, the players that Mana had to face, ASD with a very Banshee heavy push. And that's really so hard to defend against it. And of course, you need all the scouting information as well. We'll find out if Flash is actually going for one base attack or if he will just take his expansion a little bit later than usual. Scouts on Ohana wants to know if there's some kind of proxy, if there's a forward pile or anything like it. But Mini is just sticking to his own base up to now. Is getting his first zealots now out, and let's see how Mini is going to approach this.
It's also entirely possible that when the factory is done, Flash decides to conquer StarCraft only.
Yeah, it actually looks like it, doesn't it? With the SCV that he already has on the map, and he's trying to hide it a bit. So if he proxies the Starport, that would be also pretty cool.
This build is getting so popular right now. We saw it just yesterday in Code S. It's really scary. People are finding out how good Hellions are. This push with the Hellions on the low ground, you try to lift into the main. You can either lift the Hellions in the main, the Marines in the main. You can do both. You can do some elevator tactics. This type of push is becoming really strong because there's so many different ways to transition, and you're almost always going to at least do a little bit of damage to the probes.
And there it is, the Starport immediately. This will help him to cut a few seconds out of his build and make sure that the drop in his opponent's main base is just happening a little bit faster. But on the other hand, we have Mini heading straight into a Stargate.
Yeah, this is actually really funny because this type of build can either be really good or really bad against what Flash is doing, depending on if he scouts the medevac or not.
Exactly. If he takes down the medevac, of course, Flash's aggression will be shut down immediately. But on the other hand, if he doesn't, then suddenly all those Hellions in the main base don't face too many gateway units.
Yeah. And you're going to want a lot of Stalkers to defend this. Yeah, Sentries can help you and have one or two to support, but they can't really fight the Hellions. It takes way too long to kill the Hellions with that slow laser beam attack that they have.
Yeah. Wolf, this drop is going to happen so fast.
It is so fast, you're right. I mean, with the Proxy Starport, the Hellions are going to be already shown to the pro, but with the Proxy Starport, you're going to be able to lift the main. There's only 2 units out right now. One thing else to know is this build is really designed to punish a fast expand really more so than some sort of one-base play. So if Mini is actually at the right place at the right time, he will be able to shut this down with good force field.
But he needs to see this medevac, I feel, with the Phoenix. If he scouts it, oh, he's heading out. Will he scout it, though? He's moving into the middle, and if he sees the medevac, that will be huge. He sees it. He sees it, starts to attack it, but it might not be enough. In fact, it isn't.
He needs to get those Stalkers over there ASAP, and he does. Targets on the medevac first, but that's not going to stop the Hellions. He needs a force field. There's 4 Hellions here. Picks one up.
No force field, just yet the second. Phoenix is out, used another gravity beam. If you harvest this guy, 19 to 25 at this point, 10 workers have been killed.
And that's a trade that Flash is going to be quite happy with, and he's not done yet.
Yeah.
More Hellions come in. There's nothing at the natural, so he just goes right to the main base, takes out another Harvester. Nice micro here by Mini, pulling back some of those weakened ones.
Gets another few kills, in total 12 kills, so the last 2 Hellions were definitely not worth it, whereas we now have the Phoenixes headed to the top left. And facing now a few Marines, but not too many just yet, so he could actually, with a little bit of gravity beam and micro, take him out.
Yeah, just doesn't really have very much energy, and the problem, of course, becomes, does he want to lift the SCVs or does he want to lift Marines and siege tanks? A big problem for him now, of course, becomes that there are a ton of units coming out from Flash. He's got that economy, he's got the command center going up. Mini is in a position now where his economy is so hurt that to make a Nexus, he has to shut down everything. He does start that Nexus now at the natural, but the position here is so uncomfortable. He lost so many harvesters, and now he can't really do that much damage. Look at the Marine count. He's going to try to get in here, but he's going to be oh so careful. He does not want to lose a single Phoenix.
The big problem for me at this point is that he's really behind in harvesters. He's trying to get this expansion, but as you can already see, Flash has no plans of actually going into some kind of two-base play. He's just sticking with one-base play for now, and if he starts to move out, it would be really tough on Mini. Of course, he can use the Phoenixes in order to lift those siege tanks and make sure that they can't deal all that much damage to the Stalkers and the ground units in general. Well, this is really dangerous for Mini. He needs more time. He needs to get back in economy. It's not going to be easy with all the probes that he lost in the early game.
Yeah, even with Chrono Boost, it's going to be so difficult to catch up. Right now, Flash is building a deadly army, getting a Viking out now, even just because he wants to be able to zone those Phoenix out. Obviously, Phoenix will beat Vikings in a straight-up fight, but having the Viking in the army means that the Phoenixes can't really hover around. They have to either commit or get out of there, or they're going to start taking damage. He's got 3 siege tanks on the map, and this is just a great way to transition. That's why his build is so popular right now in Terran vs. Cross, because no matter what, you can fall back to those very heavy siege tanks. You're not going to die to a sentry push. The siege tank's going to be able to push that back. Phoenixes are something you very rarely face with this, but as long as Flash is map aware and careful, he's not going to have too much trouble here.
At this point now we have finally the worker count evening out, so Mini is buying himself the time that he needs in order to make this happen. But just an overall supply, Flash is still ahead and he is going for this very aggressive strategy. He has now the second base as well, but still with the siege tank count and now Phoenixes against Vikings and Marines, he can push out, put more pressure on his opponent. Those Phoenixes in general are just not doing too much damage.
Yeah, he's not even making turrets. He's totally fine with what he's got set up here. He's got the Vikings in place. So the amount of Marines he has, the Vikings, by the time the Marines get there, he's not really careful to kill any SCVs. The Flash is actually making a ton of siege tanks. He's actually going up to the 5th siege tank right now. And with the Vikings he already has out, he doesn't need Marauders yet. He can actually just make Marines, because if for some reason Mini wants to commit to Colossi, which is going to cost way more gas than he can afford, then he's going to be able to take those out right away with the Viking count he's already building up here. So he's actually feeling pretty comfortable with making just tanks and Marines, literally.
Mini sees that Flash is moving out, and this will give his Phoenixes a chance to get into the economy line and take down a few houses, which is exactly what happens right now. He needs to be careful though. If he gets rid of all the energy on the Phoenixes, they can't assist in the battle later on. And it's really important that he goes in and just lifts those siege tanks if he wants to defend against the bomb blade.
Uh-oh, these Phoenixes, or rather these sentries, better be in position. He does realize what's going on. He sees the army coming a second time. He knows how close it is. Now, the sentries will buy 1 siege up, and that's all he's going to be able to get. We're going to see it right now, actually. He actually fights with a few force fields here. Siege mode was not done.
Siege mode is not done
these
yet.
are great force fields.
Yeah, exactly. Flash is losing a lot of Marines here, but he's still ahead in overall supply. And now he's getting into this very dangerous spot for a Boros player on the bottom of the ramp. So many sentries are actually low on energy right now. He can't really use too many force fields. And Flash is just moving up the ramp. All those Vikings dealing with the few remaining Phoenixes. They won't be able to survive. And Mini is looking at a really tough battle.
Yeah, he's got those Immortals though. Those are so critical. He needs to pull that one back. Cannot lose that Immortal. If he loses it, he may just lose this game. He needs those Immortals to deal with the siege tanks. He just barely saves it. In fact, that Immortal down all the way to 4 hit points.
There are 2 siege tanks still. We have also, of course, those medivacs. And now Mini moves in.
It's a great choice.
Takes the first tank down and goes for the second immediately. Both of them die, but Mini still at 65 supply against Flash 76. But a nice defense here. Was able to push Flash back. The problem is, of course, this...
The second wave.
Exactly, the second wave for the Marines.
Yeah, he's going to rip through those Zealots with his Marines. He's got the medevac to heal. There's just not enough damage output. Flash comes in with a second wave now. He did lose his bunker up at the front, but there are 2 Immortals. He needs to deal with the siege tanks once again. Zealots will deal with the Marines. There's not a lot of upgrades out on the map for Flash, so the siege tanks are really his backbone.
Nice shot here at the medivac. Medivac dies, but Flash is still ahead in economy. He has the best Meta Harvest account. He also, of course, has the mules as well. And right now, Mini is trying to stabilize a little bit, but he has a pretty decent army out here.
Yeah,
with
he's
3 Immortals.
Yeah, exactly. He's building the composition he needs to be able to fight what Flash is doing. Flash's composition is getting worse and worse as time goes on. Obviously, he's getting more medevacs out, but he wasn't able to keep those alive, as you mentioned before. He's getting Stim and +1, but +1 is way ahead for Mini right now, and he's continuing Immortal production.
The armor upgrade for Mini is already done, so he is at a pretty good upgrade advantage here when you look at his armor and his attack upgrade as well. He's already getting charge and warp resistance, so Mini actually holding his ground here. He did a lot better in this fight than I assumed.
Yeah,
It was really well done.
He does know about the third base as well, and that's why that probe's up there at the top right. Luckily for Flash, though, and I wouldn't say luckily, I think this is intentional. He knows there's a potential warp-in point up there at the top right, so he actually sent Marine to deal with that probe, so the probe is actually not going to be able to make a pile on the grass. Mini starts his third base. As you mentioned, Charge is on the way. Now, with Charge and with faster upgrades, Flash is going to find himself, again, getting into worse and worse situation army composition-wise.
He would really profit from another. There it is, the engineering bay, and also we have an armory. Well, Mini is going for a pretty interesting choice now. He actually adds the Dark Shrine and wants to be aggressive, wants to harass his opponent, and with the 3 bases that Flash has, and his reluctance to build into the sensor towers and just missile turrets in general to deal with the Phoenixes early on, Mini will still have an opening here to move into his opponent's base. He also has the Warp Prism that is now being used for the Immortal drops, but later on, of course, it's also great to warp ETs into the main base.
That Marine just barely does not get vision. And you're so right, I'm glad you mentioned that specific point. If he doesn't have anything to deal with this Warp Prism, the DTs will become a bigger problem. Now, Stim is almost done. If he actually spots this Tech Lab, he can take it out. There's no way to repair it. Will he go for it? Here comes the Immortals, he drops them in. He needs to target those. He's targeting a reactor instead. I feel he could have definitely gotten Stim. He may still get it. He's targeting it. There's no way to stop it.
Yeah, and Stim is not going to finish. Very well done by Mini here. Playing a great game. Losing his Warp Prism, though, to those 2 Vikings.
Yeah, that means he's going to lose the Immortals as well, but he's taken out a barracks. No lift here. There it is. And he barely repairs it. Nicely done.
Just in time. Maybe the Immortals can take out a few of the Marauders that we see there. Still Zealots, but they are going to die very, very soon.
Targets down the Marauder. And even with the healing on the medevac, he's just able to do a lot of damage.
Mini is still a little behind in overall supply, but he's now on 3 bases. He has a pretty decent harvesting now with 57 to 53. We have Storm coming up for him, so he didn't decide to go for this Colossus tech. No, he wants to have Storm as an area of effect weapon against his opponent's biomass. And as we don't see any ghosts or Ghost Academy, this is a great choice here. So Flash is a little bit in the dark, he doesn't know exactly what's coming, and this could actually win Mini the game. If he gets a good engagement and gets off some good storms, Flash will be in trouble.
Now, something we didn't get a chance to talk about was as soon as the Warp Prism was spotted with the or as soon as the Vikings were spotted with the Warp Prism, he canceled his Dark Shrine because he really wanted to use the Warp Prism in conjunction with that. And that was a great choice, I feel, because without the Warp Prism, not really going to be able to do too much with that. There's already turrets placed around the map now as well, so a great choice to cancel that Dark Shrine, so no investment lost here.
And of course, for Flash, one of the biggest problems is that his Stim is just so much delayed. He can't be aggressive without Stim. It's just not possible. You need the upgrade, and he is about to complete it. But still, this buys Mini more and more time, which is exactly what he needs. His Storm is nearly done. He warps in a lot of high Templars. The Warp Prism is also being built so that he can go for Storm drops if he wants to, while he's fighting against Flash's army. And the upgrades are also looking pretty good for Mini at this point. Yeah. He is on the 2 armor, is getting the 3rd armor upgrade now, whereas Flash is getting his 1st armor upgrade, getting the 2nd attack upgrade. But just the timings here for Mini work out pretty well. Now the Ghost Academy being started, but also already a little bit late.
And even that Zelda you guys saw on screen a few seconds ago just killed all 3 of those Marines because the armor upgrades. He keeps the pylon alive as a result. This army is really, really small for Mini, though. He needs those storms. He's got them in the Warp Prism. Will he be able to actually cast them? That's the question. The siege tanks are isolated here.
Storms are good so far. Nice storms here by him, hitting all of those fire forces. He can use a couple of them positional now if he wants to make sure that his change won't be in danger. But now Mini is fighting once again, and Flash is actually doing a lot of damage with his Stim being completed. He has such a sick damage output, but in the end, he's pushed back by the Protoss player.
The Immortal count was insane there, and he's facing a Marauder-heavy army, so he actually is able to supplement his army just a little bit here with these Immortals. He needs another Storm.
And his Minion Shield is actually weakened. His Zealots are about to die, and those Medivacs keep Flash in the game here. They do
really
so much.
He's just got enough energy for 1 Storm now on his High Templar, and Flash decides to turn around. He's getting another Warp in. It looks like he, with how he's positioning himself here, wants to take this base to the right side of the map while being aggressive against Flash, but The position, like you said, is always Flash has a slightly bigger army. He's got that medevac count. The medevac count is insane right now, all the way up to 8.
Look at the resources for Mini. He was up to 1,000 minerals a few seconds ago. He needs more gateways, and there he goes building them. But it might already be a little bit too late. Can he fight off Flash here? He's 30 supply behind an army supply. Great storm indeed. And now he's trying to take down the medevacs, but he really needs more production.
He really does, and he, like you said, he is building it. 3 more gateways on the way, plus 3 armor is about to finish for him. The ghosts, though, that are coming out for Flash, 4 of them are going to be with the Mobius reactor upgrade, and they don't care about upgrades. EMP just takes out whatever shield it can find.
4th base now being built for Mini. He just tries to get rid of all the resources that he has. He knows that he needs more gateways, but while he's building them and while he tries to get more units into the picture, he's just getting more upgrades, more tech, more bases, trying to dump all those excess resources that he has and not let them go to waste. The War Prism to the top left, trying to warp something in, but it's too late. 2 Vikings for Flash do a great job here, make sure that his base is safe.
Yeah, and he's just, it's going to be so hard to actually make warp-ins work when there are Vikings on the map like that. Double drop coming towards Mini's main right now will actually do a ton of damage because there's nothing to stop him. He's actually going for the Stargate first. Meanwhile, there's an attack in the middle of the map, and because Flash has a lot of these units in his medevacs, he is really vulnerable, but the damage is being done in the main base. Now he's going for the production.
At the bottom right, everything is not being killed. There's nothing to defend, and this actually triggers this attack by Mini. He knows that he has to win it right now because Flash is taking his main base at heart. You can't see it on the main screen right now at the bottom of the map on the picture of the mini map. You have a quick glimpse at it, but here in the middle, you see Flash still holding against Mini, and the main base, I mean, he's losing everything here. Finally a warp in by Mini, trying to defend. He might be able to pull it off, but Flash already took down quite a lot.
Yeah, with great storms though on the retreat, he was able to do a lot. He needs to turn these Immortals around. They could have taken out actually almost all of those Marauders.
Yeah, the Marauders, now they do it, and they kill 4 of them, but he lost so many Marauders already. You're perfectly right, Wolf. Flash definitely getting a lot of kills here. Mini could have done this so much better, but he was just occupied with the main base, trying to defend against the drop play of his opponent. But those Marauders, they would have had such an easy time against the Marauders.
Now the position is one that's becoming really scary for Flash, because even though he's winning these small battles left and right, he's still behind in upgrades, and the 4th base is up. Flash has no 4th base. He does have a 4th commander just now starting in his main.
It's actually a pretty sick game if you think about it. All these back and forth battles that we have, Flash defending while dropping his opponent's base, Mini somehow able to kill this drop at the same time, losing a lot of units in the middle, but still coming out a little bit ahead. Also true because Flash has too many medevacs, I feel.
Yeah.
13.
And, you know, he just continued to make them. I feel his resources may have been better spent elsewhere. This Nexus, though, will fall.
Yeah.
Mini decides, I'm just going to give it up. There's no way I can actually hold this, and I think that's the right choice in this case.
Supplies even for both of them, but with all the medevacs that Flash is building, he's definitely overdoing it a little bit. He has 13 medevacs already. He's getting 2 additional ones. He might not even stop there. And he just doesn't have this many units that actually do damage. The medevac count is sick and will help him, of course, to keep his units alive, especially the Marauders. But at some point, he needs to stop.
That's true. This is actually something a lot of people talked about with Flash when he first came into StarCraft 2, talking about the differences between Castle players and GSL players, saying that Flash made more medevacs than most people, and it seems to be a conscious decision. And what does this mean? And is this actually better, or what? You know, what is this kind of style leading towards? But in this case, you know, he's just got a bunch of medevacs that oftentimes are floating over his army after his army is dead. And, you know, it begs the question, should he have had more Marauders instead? Should he have had more barracks production?
It depends, of course, on the DPS that Mini is able to dish out. And with now Colossus and Storm and Archons just providing some area of effect damage, it will be very hard for Flash to keep all these units alive, medevacs or not.
Yeah.
He's switching into Vikings now and also adds the second starport to counter out those Colossi that he already spotted. But this is a pretty awesome game. I mean, this is the first map that we have between the two of them, and Mini is playing really such a great game. He was able to defend for such a long time where I thought he might just crumble, but Flash right now is definitely hard-pressed by his opponent. So a pretty cool game, whereas Flash now has to deal with those Zealots in the main base. He's still in a decent position, also trying to take a 4th base here.
He needs that 4th. The probe is actually denying it landing, so he's not able to mine there properly. He's accidentally long-distance mining. STB has attacked the probe, but the army of Mini is now getting to a great position to attack the 3rd of Flash, whereas Mini starts his 4th again. There's 2 medevacs to the bottom left, which could become important in a battle if Mini is distracted.
And the army supply is 140 for Flash against 120 for Mini, but of course those medevacs won't help him too much, and I feel like too many Vikings now. He's only 1 oh, actually, sorry, my bad. There are 3 Colossi, I only saw 1 on the mini.
Yeah, 3 Colossi and 3 Templar, and Flash actually just lets the base go.
Yeah, and he drops.
Yeah, he goes for that drop I was talking about earlier. There were Templar in position, but it looks like Mini decided to move them with his army instead. He may lose the next if Flash decides to target it.
Mini really has to do some damage now. He is going to lose the space if he isn't careful. A few warp-in zealots won't help him too much. He will be taken out, but the main battle in the middle is already occurring, and those Vikings are hard-pressed by the Stalkers. And the first Colossus is about to die, whereas the Storms are pretty decent for Mini here. He's doing a lot of damage to Flash, and the Terran player drops supply. He drops really fast.
Yeah, it looks like the drop to the bottom left is going to be cleaned up. See these medevacs here just barely able to survive. There's not a lot of army under there, but it does do enough healing.
The combination of Marauders with heavy armor upgrades and medivacs is just sick.
Once the Protoss army is not able to do that AoE damage, once the Storm is gone and once the Colossi are gone, if you can't kill the unit, if there's a lot of stuff healing it, it's going to be a great position when you have this many medevacs. Flash now has the army to go and attack this 4th base as it just finished. Mini is really hard pressed right now to defend both locations. The 3rd base finally defended, but he doesn't have enough ground army to save his 4th.
Yeah, I think right now we have a bit of a snowball effect. Finally, Flash is in a position where he can rebuild faster than his opponent, where he can overcome Mini's defense. He's now moving in, taking down the 4th for the 2nd time. Mini just doesn't have enough. Flash is in a spot where he can make sure that his opponent does not get the 4th base, does not have any income, and with him getting another base, having a 4th and a 3rd where he can mine from, he's just in such a great position that I think Mini is out of luck.
Yeah, I think Mini is essentially lost already. He wasn't able to keep up with Flash. Once that drop, not only did the drop do damage to the probe line, but more importantly, actually, because he had to deal with it, he wasted so many warp-ins there. He warped in maybe 8 zealots that all died to the drop, maybe even more than that. He lost Templar there as well. The drop still wasn't even cleaned up until just now, so that was a huge investment. Plus, then Mini lost the fight at the middle of the map, which may have even been because he didn't have those warp-ins, but like you said, it's a snowball effect. That's the best way to describe it.
And if you look at the Harvest account, we have Flash being a little bit behind, which doesn't mean that he's behind the economy because of all those command centers and orbits that he has, but this also indicates that he is way ahead in army supply. He's 125 against 70. Yeah. And he's using it for another drop while attacking.
He's everywhere. Drop in the main to eliminate the production. If Mini doesn't respond to this, he's not going to die, but he's not going to have a next phase of the game.
This is Mini's last stand.
Exactly. He needs to take a fight one place or another. He's indecisive a little bit here, decides to go home. The damage is already being done. He's losing his Templar archetypes now.
His tech is being obliterated. The robotics bay is gone, and now gateway after gateway will be targeted down.
Core.
Cybernetics core is done, and Mini actually decides to retreat and fight another day.
And Flash immediately will go for the 4th that he thinks may be there after he sees this. But actually, no, he's going right for the 3rd.
That medivac actually survived. 10 hit points. One more Stalker shot and it would have been killed. But Flash is moving in now. He's moving into the 3rd base and trying to end this game. He has a 50 supply advantage over his opponent and is now also controlling the choke points with EMPs. Sick EMPs at the ramp. With the positioning that he chooses here, it's of course quite easy to get those off, but really well played. A great position. Dodges the storms, and Mini finds himself in a very, very awkward situation because the double drop at the bottom right has been started once again.
He's losing more and more. Yeah, he's going to deflect this. All these units are low on hit points, but even if he takes this fight, he's in such dire straits. He's losing the Nexus actually in the main means he's losing Chrono Boost basically. There's nothing else in the main where he can mine from. But
and those gateways are a big problem for him. 60 supply left, still going strong at the bottom right. The drop there we have it all. The gateways are already unpowered. No more warp-ins for Mini. He has resources, but he doesn't have the production. He doesn't have the gateways.
GG.
And Flash takes map number 1.
I had to say, man, watching Flash in the bottom left there in the booth, you can see actually, compared to a lot of programmers, he has such good posture. I actually feel like, you know, people make jokes about how Flash takes his ruler into the booth and his tape, and he measures out exactly where he wants his mouse pad to be, make sure that it doesn't move when he sits down. But you can see in the booth that actually the way he even sits is so calculated. As was his drops and his move-outs in that last game, just pressuring in all different ways. The initial opening of that game with the Hellion drop just did so much damage, even though Mini was on one base. Part of that, of course, is due to build order choices, but it was really well executed.
We have, of course, not too many games recorded for Flash in StarCraft 2 against Protoss, but if you consider all the MLG vs. Pro League Invitational matches that he played against Protoss, he's now currently looking at a score of 16 wins against 1 loss. I kind of feel that this this has to be wrong. There have to be some losses that we didn't record, but it's just insane if you think about it. Of course, the more games he's going to play, the more tougher opponents he's going to face. This will reduce a little bit, but at this point, having a win ratio at like 95% is just madness.
Yeah, I mean, with the experience and the players he's been able to eliminate, it's kind of hard to believe. Map number 2 is going to be a big one. It's Whirlwind. We're jumping into it right now.
You know what the funny thing is? That game started at 1337.